Hey, good morning, everybody. Ooh, I'm very blue this morning, very blue this morning. Let me change that real quick. So let's, sometimes we have to make adjustments. I'll do that now. The power of technology, right? And that's a little better. How's that? That makes me look a little more flesh-toned. And then how's the volume? Let me know if you can hear me or not. Good morning, everybody. My mic, I know my mic, Zach, I turned my mic on a little early. Could you hear me breathing? Okay, we have a question right off the bat. Rosa, you have a question. In cause and effect essay, can I use quotations and statistics? Yes. If the instructor says you can, of course, for any essay, you can use quotations and statistics. In fact, I would encourage it. The more information you can get online or from a book, a magazine, or a journal, I think the better for any paper. If you're just drawing from your head all the time, if you're just getting ideas from your head without any inside information, it might limit your writing. I think all writing tends to want to use pieces of outside support in order to make it better. Oh, good evening. I see it's not morning for everybody. Good evening, Vivek. How are you doing? Oh, I was Zach. Thank you for tuning in, Zach. Thank you for being here. I see Zach is here, and you could hear me mumbling. Yeah, I talk to myself. I talk to myself a little bit as I'm pressing buttons. I turned the mic on a little bit earlier. I was expecting to hop in. Good morning, Sissy. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is there. I hope you had a good weekend. I know I did. It's good to be back here in the SCEL studios in beautiful downtown Spokane, Washington. I'm glad you could join me this morning. I've been talking about modals for the past couple of weeks, and we're going to continue that today with modals. But of course, first of all, let me put this in the background here, and let me make that bigger as well. As always, Zach, I hope it's okay I'm giving out your personal information. If you have more questions and you want to ask Zach directly, here is his email, and I shared this in the class notes, and I'm going to share that class notes link in the chat room right now. So there you go, you have the chat one. Oh, I see I have another premium user signed up for my class. Thank you for all the premium users who are signing up. Semi-personal, yeah, it's work, but you know, work is personal with Zach. I don't think there's any line there. I hope, Zach, did you take a vacation as well? I hope you had a good vacation. And I hope you had time to relax on that. He shared a link. He's sharing a link, and it's very much like this link I'm sharing. Let me grab. I'm also going to grab Zach's link and put it in the show notes now. And for those of you watching this video later, the people I'm talking to are real. These are live classes, meaning people join us live in chat, and I talk to them. I can see their names. If you watch these videos later, it probably sounds kind of strange, kind of silly. But yes, there are real people joining me in the class now live. And if you can't join me live, you can go ahead and click on one of these links and see what other classes are available. Of course, we have a subscription service which allows you access to a little more. You have these same 2 lessons each week, But then you'll have access to the curriculum, the Smrt curriculum, which has a number of classes and lessons in everything, in grammar, writing, reading, listening. So a lot of lessons and exercises. If you do the exercises that I assign and send them to me, I can mark those up. I will grade them. There are quizzes and exams. You will be given quizzes and exams. For some of you, that's a good thing. I don't know how much I enjoyed quizzes and exams in school, but yes, of course, you will receive quizzes and exams to check your progress with the material we cover. And then at the end, you will receive a certification. You can see more information on this page, and you can see the classes that are available from different teachers, from Nicole and Mark, myself, and Joshua. And so take a look at those. Take a look. So those links are shared with you. Yeah, a ton of exercises. So if you ever do take a look, you will see there are a lot of exercises. What else do I have in my class notes? If you want to see more about where I work, the brick and mortar place where I work, the actual location, you can check there. That's the Spokane College of English Language. And then on Facebook, here's a couple places to look. Learn English on Facebook is one of our Facebook pages. And then, of course, you can always find me on Facebook and friend me as well. So go ahead and take a look at all those. And again, maybe I'll put the class notes one more time. I know sometimes you don't always see those when they go up. So I'll share that one more time. I see students talking about homework for another teacher's class. Why, this is beginning to feel like a real live classroom, like I'm actually there and the students are in the room when I see two students talk about homework for another teacher's class. It's very familiar, a very familiar situation for me. Okay, I'm going to jump right into the lesson and I will update the notes as we go along. We're going to continue our discussion about modals. This time, for those of you with access to the Smrt, I'm on English 125, and this will be Grammar 10.1, Past Probability. And we'll need to use modals for past probability. Okay, are you ready? Here we go. Past probability. Modal verbs. Of course, we've been talking about them. You still have to remember them. We'll be talking about these 10 plus a couple more. But remember, know these 10. Know can, could, may, might, shall, should, will, would, must, and ought to. The other couple we're going to talk about is be able to and have to. But it's important to know these modals because it is such a limited set of words and they are so useful in many situations. Try to memorize these. Try to memorize these, especially these 10 here. Okay, let's go over the general rules one more time. And I've done this a couple times before, and I'll do it again because it's always good to know the general rules. First of all, they do not change forms like a normal verb. So, you know, a normal verb like go, for example, go becomes goes when you put it after subject he, she, or it. Past is went. The perfect form would be gone. So normal verbs like go change. There are different forms. Verbs like look, we call those regular because it's look, looks, and then verb 2 and verb 3 look the same. Looked and looked with that ed ending. Another rule to remember, there is no do, does in the question forms. Can you give me a hand? Can you give me a hand? Use a modal there if you're trying to elicit a response, if you're trying to get somebody to do something. And of course, there are exceptions. Don't be confused with this. In other questions, you can use do and does in question form. But if you use a modal, for a question, such as can you give me a hand? You can't say, can you do give me a hand? Do you give me a hand? the do does just goes away. So you just need the modal. You just need to start with that modal. And of course, we're starting with the modal and not the subject because it's a question. Okay, so far so good. Let's go to the next general rule. There is no don't, doesn't in the negative forms. He shouldn't do that. Notice we put the negative on the modal. Shouldn't. We don't put it on the do. We would not say he should don't do that, or he should doesn't that. The negative goes with the modal. The negative goes with the modal if you make negative form. Some, or they are always followed by a base form. I should say modals are always followed by a base form verb, meaning verb 1. Ought to is the only exception because ought to, you need to include the to, which means instead of just an infinitive verb, you will actually have an infinitive phrase. We would help if we had time. Notice help is just verb 1. It's not helps or helped. The modal, because we have would before it, help does not change. She mustn't do that. Again, we put the negative with the modal. Do will be verb 1. It'll be its normal form, an unchanged form. We ought to get going. And then here we have our infinitive phrase, to get. But get will not change. It will always be verb 1, not verb 2 and not verb 3, not past form, not infinitive form. So I always think modals make sentence level grammar a little easier because your verb will not change after the modal. It will always be an unchanged verb 1. So remember that. That's a good rule to remember. They do not usually, and we're going to kind of talk about the exceptions to this rule today, but usually, they do not have past or gerund forms. We do have a couple other words that we can use the same as modals, and that is have to and able to, and those we can change the forms. I hate having to get up early, and of course it means must, an obligation. I hate having to get up early. And this is called a verb pattern, where we have one verb, hate, and another verb that follows it. And if you ever have that, if you ever have two verbs in a row in a sentence, one of them should be your main verb, hate, and the other one will become a gerund or an infinitive. Here they use the gerund. Instead of have to, they're using having to. This one, I was able to play piano when I was a child. That's past ability. Means you could when you were a child. But notice with be able to, we can change it to past form. So we have a couple words that we can use as modals that can change, have to and be able to. Okay, so those are general rules. We're going to talk a little bit more about perfect infinitive, what's called the perfect infinitive, to make past forms. Some modals are used with the perfect infinitive to make past forms. This is explained more below, but let's look at the past forms now. You shouldn't have done that. We're talking about a situation in the past in this sentence. You shouldn't have done that. Whatever action that was, whatever that was, somebody else is saying you shouldn't have done that. If you could go back and change that decision, you should. Of course, it's too late. We can't build a time machine. We can't go in the past and change it. But of course, we can still talk about the past. So sometimes we use modals like this to do that. A perfect infinitive. We have a modal. Then we have the negative with the modal. Then have. And then after that, verb, what would that be? Verb 3. Milena? No, we just began. We're talking about general rules. One more time, we're talking about general modal rules, and then we'll talk about perfect infinitive a little bit more. But welcome. And then finally, she must have stayed home. I don't see her at the party. My guess, she must have stayed home. Modal, have, verb 3, and then the rest of the sentence. So we're going to be working on these. And Sissy asks a question, what's the difference between must and ought to? I think as far as obligation goes, and let me jump to the notes real quick. Let me go down to my 10 modals. In my 10 modals, did I include must be able to? Must, have to. Okay, so with must, have to, I would definitely say, that's not right. I would definitely say strong obligation. And this is, I guess I'm going to use the opposite word for strong for me this morning will be mild. I would say more mild obligation or advice. Of course, if these words are coming from somebody else, they would be words of advice, or actually could also be an order. So must is very strong. Ought to is a little more mild. If I say, I must do my homework, and we have a couple permission. We talked about permission earlier, so we have a couple examples from that. Let's look at obligation examples. If I say to myself, because I like to talk to myself, I like to mutter to myself a little bit, I must do my homework. That's a strong obligation. I can't do anything else. I can't plan anything else. I must do it. If I say, I ought to do my homework, that's mild. I may actually end up doing something else. I realize that I have homework to do, but I'm not giving myself so much pressure to do it. Welcome back, Mala. Mahir, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Is it always have and not has? No, you can use has to. He has to. She has to. It has to. That's a good question, Rosa. We can change this form of has. I have to. He has to. She has to. So again, for example, he can't visit right now. He must, or he has to do his homework. And of course, this is very strong obligation. It sounds like, in fact, he will do his homework right now. He can't visit right now. He has to do his homework. Very strong obligation. Okay, good questions so far. Must and ought to, are they used in questions? Yeah, they are. But it's a little strange to hear them in questions. It sounds very, very formal. Must you tap your pencil while you study? And this is actually showing annoyance. I'm annoyed at somebody. Ought to for a question. Ought we go? No. I'm gonna say no for ought. It'll sound very, very strange. Yeah, don't use ought in a question. You can use must in a question, but it's done to show annoyance. It's done to show that somebody's annoying you, like tapping your pencil while you study. You know, some people do that. So only use this in certain situations. Only use must for questions in certain situations. Okay, good question. Another good question. And then in the class notes, I have the rules, and then we talked about the perfect infinitive. Let's look about how we can make that perfect infinitive. So here, to create the perfect infinitive, You need the modal, you need the word have, and of course, you can use has as well. And then the past participle, verb 3, PP, however you want to call it. So that's your construction. That'll be your construction for your sentence. So for example, it, which will be our subject, modal, might. Then of course the word have. It might have rained. Oh, maybe this is what you're asking, Rosa, and I should, if we're talking about this specific type of grammar, perfect infinitive, no has, and I'm sorry if I misled you. No has here. Because we are using a modal, remember anything after that modal is going to be unchanged. So I kind of misunderstood a little bit when I gave these examples up here, like he has to do his homework. If this have to comes directly after the subject, then you can change it. But if you have a modal, a different modal, like might or may, then don't change have. It'll just be the word have. It might have rained overnight. It was pretty cloudy last night. So yeah, and so I kind of misunderstood your question, Rosa. Here in this form, in this perfect infinitive form, we're just going to use have. It's just going to be have. It might have rained, and there's our past participle, overnight. The party must have been fun. So many of our friends were there. It must have been fun. Now, if somebody says this, it sounds like they weren't there. They're making a guess about the past. This one, it might have rained overnight. Again, this is a guess about the past. So when we use this perfect infinitive form, we're making guesses about the past. So maybe we weren't there. Maybe whoever the speaker or the writer of these sentences are, they weren't there. She may have gotten lost. I don't know where she is. She isn't here right now. She may have gotten lost. Have done is a past infinitive? Yes, that would be correct. Have done. He might have done. I wouldn't use done in this case. I'll try to think of one with done. He might have finished his homework. Oh, I thought of another one. She may have done the dishes. That's also kind of strange. She may have done the dishes. Yeah, we can keep it. She may have done the dishes. Do the dishes is a common phrase we use for that chore. Do the dishes. But again, we're making guesses about the past. If we write or speak like this, we're not sure. We weren't there to observe it. We're using the information we have now to make a guess about the past. I think I could have done better in the test. Good, Mr. Singh. That's correct. Let me try to get these to look like the other fonts. It's fighting me right now. I love technology. There we go. And that's not quite right. Good, thank you, Mr. Singh. There's your example up there. Thank you for your patience while I fix that sentence. Okay, let's go back to the presentation. So far so good, I hope. And we just talked about this. This is the construction. Remember this construction. And of course, you'll have a subject before this. But modal, have, and past participle. And there's our examples. Okay, modal verbs of probability in the past, meaning it's very probable that these things happened in the past, have the same degree that we studied before. So same degree of probability of happening. We use modals of probability when we do not have all the facts. And we talked about this earlier. And in the class notes, I think those two examples I have up here. No, that's permission. Probability. A normal probability sentence might look something like this. So we use evidence, and here I just have a modal and a verb, and it's talking about the future, and I'm wondering about the chance of it raining in the future, and I think it has a good chance. It may rain this afternoon. The sky's getting darker. Because I see the sky getting darker, because I have evidence, I can say it may rain this afternoon. Vivek, that's it's a good sentence. It's a funny sentence. It made me laugh, so I'm going to add it. She ought to have called me for a date. But if you say this, of course, she did not call. She ought to have, though. Mild obligation. She ought to have called me for a date. And yeah, good use of oughts. Ought to, by the way. But she didn't. The date didn't happen. Oh. Okay, let's go back to the presentation next. Must, of course, you use when you're very certain. Can't or couldn't are used when we are certain something didn't happen. So it's not just negative, it kind of takes on a new form. We are certain something did not happen. We are going to use this grammar, we're going to use can't or couldn't to mean we're using evidence, looking in the past, and we are sure, we are certain it did not happen. Let's look at the examples. The invitations were sent last week. Everyone must have received them by now. Everyone must have received them by now. I feel certain about that. They went to a nice restaurant last night. It must have been very expensive. It was a nice restaurant. It must have been very expensive. He grew up in South America. He must have played a lot of soccer when he was younger. He cannot have arrived already. He is always late. You could not have seen me yesterday because I wasn't at school, and I know. I'll pop out for a second so you can see that last sentence. You could not have seen me yesterday because I wasn't at school. Impossible. I'm certain I wasn't there. You could not have seen me. So certainty. Let me add these as well to the class notes. So I'm going to actually pull these off live. And drop them in the class notes. And of course, these examples are talking about what I would call certainty. Certainty. And for that, we're going to use must. And then for the negative, remember, use can't or couldn't. I guess we can call it, hopefully it's okay to call it negative certainty. No, that's not good. How about certain it did not happen? That's a little better. You're certain it did not happen. And there are examples. And remember this, anytime you see this negative, can or could, and then you see the have, like cannot have or could not have, you feel very, very positive. You feel very, very certain that it did not happen. That did not happen. And we already have some more student examples. Good, Donnie D. Things couldn't have been worse. And here, we wouldn't use that. Things is very general, so we're not going to put an article before it. Things couldn't have been worse. Which one is more, Rosa is asking a question, what's more popular, have to or must? And boy, that's a great question. Both are very, very popular. Both are very common. I hear and read a lot of both of them, must and have to. You can feel free to use which one you want. My guess, though, especially in speaking in common, in more informal English, I would say have to is a little more common, although must is very, very, very common. So I would say my guess would be have to is a little more, although they're both super, super, super common. Can I say, Rosa asking, he has to have played? Yes, we can say this. He has to have played. Actually, he has to have played. I would say in this case, actually, I'm going to go back and say no. This one you would want to change to, if you feel certain about it, you're going to want to change it to must. So with this certainty, when we're talking about this perfect infinitive, and we're going to talk about guesses made about the past, in this case, use must. It does sound a little strange to say he has to have played, although it is possible. He has to have played. I would suggest for this one, must. Must will be a little better. And I think I could be wrong. I could be wrong on this. I'll admit I could be wrong on this, but I think it's because the has and have to sound a little awkward, sound a little strange. Has to have. He has to have played. My suggestion here would be for the must. Heavy recommendation to use must in that situation. Mahir, this is a strange sentence. I'm actually going to put this one, I'm going to get rid of this one. I cannot have arrived already. I am always late. I cannot have arrived already. I am always late. So you surprised yourself in this sentence. You feel impossible. And yet, if you say this, it's disbelief. It's actually a statement of disbelief. You are early. You just can't believe it. So you're very certain because of your habit of always being late, and yet you've done it. So this is a statement of disbelief, but a good sentence, Miyuki is asking, which is powerful, should or must? Must is more powerful. Must is more powerful than should. If I say, I should do my homework, just kind of giving myself that idea. If I say, I must do my homework, then that's a lot stronger. So must more powerful than should. Okay, good questions and good sentences so far. All around, everything awesome so far. Let's go back to the presentation. There's our examples. Okay, should, when we do use should, it's used to express desired expectations. Should is used to express desired, what we would like, or what we would have liked. In the perfect infinitive, the desired expectation may be met or not. So maybe it happened because we're talking about the past. Maybe it didn't happen. Let's take a look at some examples. It should have rained last night. We need the water for the crops. So remember, that's desire. That's a want. That's what I want. I wake up, maybe I'm a farmer. I wake up and I say, oh, it should have rained last night. We need the water for the crops. That was my expectation. I hope it happened. He should have arrived by now. Where is he? I expected him to arrive earlier. He should have arrived by now. I don't understand why the total was so high. It should not have been so expensive. My expectation was that it was not going to be expensive. So should is for desired or expected results. So let's add those to the class notes as well. And I'll drop those in. And of course, we're talking about here, we're talking about should. Desired or expected results. So, use again one more time. Man, the computer's really fighting me this morning. I'm trying to, that's weird. It won't make, it's not making doesn't want to make a capital S for me. All right, you can have your way. You can have your way, computer. That's peculiar. It should have made a capital S. The computer should have allowed me to make a capital S. Of course, that's my desired result, my expected result, but it did not happen. So, Rosa, I'm glad these classes have inspired you to start drinking coffee. I am without a coffee this morning. I am not my usual self this morning. I'm without my coffee. I'm without my coffee. Of course, I will be sure to get one as soon as the class is over. But coffee is fantastic. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness, it's fantastic. Good, Mr. Singh. Good, Vivek. These are excellent, excellent sentences. She should have called me by now. That was my expected or desired result, and it has not happened. Good, good. Wow, a lot of them. Ch. Is your name simply Ch? Ch writes the example sentence, you should have studied. Why did you fail your exam? Good example sentence, CH. You should have made your decision earlier. You should have made your decision earlier. Good, all these are excellent, excellent examples. Good one, Lucas. So these are good examples of should, showing desired or expected results. What you desired or expected, and it may or may not have happened. Okay, let's go back. The modals could, might, or may are used if you are unsure. And notice this is could in the positive form. We talked about it in negative form before. This is could in the positive form. Could, might, or may. The difference between the three is very small, so they're almost synonymous, used as synonyms. But could is going to be the least certain. It's going to be the least certain. So if you're really, really, really not sure, use could. Let's look at some examples. Where is she? She might have left already? I don't know. I'm not sure. She might have left already. I can't find the newspaper. It may not have been delivered yet. John could have woken up late. I'm not sure why he isn't here yet. She may not have gone shopping. I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know where she is. This one, of course, with the could, is the least certain. So again, let's add these to the class notes. And we're talking about could, might, and may. We're talking about could, might, or may to talk about unsure. And of course, could is the most unsure. So these are the modals we used for uncertainty, unsure. Good example with the should here. I'm going to add those to the class notes. You should understand the verbal words. You're smart. And if we have two separate subjects and verbs, I'm going to use a semicolon there to separate my subjects and verbs. Yeah, Rosa, you're right. I should have bought my coffee. And if you're just joining us, Cheapy and Anwar, if you're just joining us, we are talking about modals used in the past, or in the perfect infinitive, to show certain different things. And we're at the end, so a quick review would be, we use the perfect infinitive to make guesses about the past. We use a modal, have, plus past participle, verb 3. And here are some examples here. If we're very certain about something, we use must. If we're certain it didn't happen, we use can't or couldn't. If we expect or desire an effect or a result, we use should. And then finally, we use could, might, or may if we are unsure. So that's what we have so far, and those are modals. And is it real? Are we going to actually have time for an exercise? Crazy. We are going to have time for an exercise. That's great. Good morning, Abdul Karim. Good morning, Sayar. We are going to do the exercise on modals. You're just in time for the exercise. So let's look at this first one. Remember our construction, our sentence construction, modal, have, plus past participle. The activists have started to leave. The police must stop their demonstration. They give us a couple words to use here. They want us to use must and stop. And if we change that to the perfect infinitive, it becomes the police must have stopped their demonstration. Okay, I'm going to leave these ones up, and I'm going to give you a little time to work on these next 4. Also, I will add these to the class notes. So for some of you, that will be easier to see. But I'll leave these up. And I'll be right back. I'll give you a couple minutes to work on these, and then we'll do some more. All right, good luck. Okay, let me come back here for a second to talk about the answers, and I think I need to make a copy of this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to make a copy so I can write in the answers. Okay, let's look at this first one, B. You bought the brand new phone? There, and of course I saw a lot of correct answers. There must, remember we have to have the word have, so modal plus have plus PP, verb 3, past participle. There must have been a long wait to get in the store when you went. Must have been. How about the next one? I saw a lot of right answers on this one too. I'm not sure, but he may. So we'll have our modal may. Remember after that, have, the word have. And then verb 3 is going to be ed because donate is a regular verb. I'm not sure, but he may have donated some money to the charity. May have donated. D. I do not understand why the window was broken overnight. Someone must, there's our modal, have vandalized it. So modal must plus have plus verb 3. Must have vandalized it. So some of you are new, and Suleiman, I saw that you said this is difficult for a beginner. That's because this is intermediate. This is middle. Of course this would be difficult for a beginner. If you're a beginner, I would imagine this is very, very difficult. So you want something on subject-verb agreement? Yeah, we can talk about subject-verb agreement in the future. Okay, and then let's look at the last one we did. I'm just laughing at some of your comments right now. You guys are funny. You are funny. You make me laugh. Should have been feasible. Modal should, then the word have, and then been. Should have been feasible. Okay. Maybe let's talk about a couple of vocabulary words. I haven't added any vocabulary to the class notes yet. Vandalize. Maybe some of you have come across this word before, vandalize. It's an interesting word. I'm going to make it a little bigger. Vandalize. What does this mean? And in the example sentence, we had a broken window. Vandalize is to destroy or maybe paint on other people's property. To destroy or paint on other people's property is to vandalize it. Broken window, if you smash anything, if you ruin anything, you vandalize it. You are a vandal. Vandalize. And then another word we had was feasible. Feasible is just like possible. It's possible to do it. It's feasible. I might do that. It's not a crazy idea. Al-Walid, welcome back. So we have a question. Let's see if I can answer it simply. Is the verb in the simple present intransitive? Yeah, so transitive, intransitive verb, simple present, it doesn't matter if the verb is intransitive, it will be intransitive in any form, simple present, past, simple, future. An intransitive verb will always be intransitive, and a transitive verb will always be transitive, no matter the form. It doesn't matter if it's past or future. I hope that answers that question. Yeah, vandalize is like breaking. That's correct, Sissy. Breaking or ruining something. Breaking or ruining something. Like graffiti. Although I love graffiti, I consider graffiti to be art. A lot of people consider graffiti to be vandalizing something. If you spray paint on something, you vandalize it. Okay, we have more time. Let's do some more of these. Let's look at some more sentences. Why not? I'll add these again to the class notes for those of you looking at the class notes. And you did the last set very quickly, so maybe you'll be able to do this set quickly as well. Let's just look at 4 more. Let's look at 4 more. And I'll pop out for a second while you look at these ones. Okay, a lot of you are done with these already. They tricked you. Some of these are, I'm sorry, I have to apologize. Some of these are trick answers. Okay. Something like that. Okay, and we've been talking about perfect infinitive. Some of these sentences, though, because of their meaning, cannot be perfect infinitive. Like this one. Something like that cannot be commonplace in your country anymore. Why do we just use cannot be? Why not the have? Well, it's because of this word here, anymore. Anymore. We're talking about the present now. The past is done. If we didn't have the word anymore, we could have said something like that cannot have been commonplace in your country. But that one word limits us. That this one word anymore forces us to use not the perfect, but just a modal and a verb. So present. But if we removed it, then we could have said cannot have been. So a bit of a trick question and answer. Same with this one. You have not eaten all day. You must be starving right now. Again, this right now means this has to be some kind of present form. If I didn't have that, you have not eaten all day. You must have starved. We can do it if we don't have this right now. So some words, like anymore or right now, because they talk about the present, will make it impossible to use a perfect infinitive. So, trick questions. They tricked us. Sneaky. She is really angry at me. I think I might have offended her. She's really angry at me. I think I might have offended her. This one's fine. She's angry at me now, but what I did in the past is the reason she's angry at me. So that one's possible to use perfect infinitive on. And then finally, what did she do yesterday? Let me put in those quotation marks. I am not sure, but she may have, just a guess, may have visited the temple. And this one's possible as well. I'm not sure. I don't know. She may have visited the temple. So two of these, the last two, can be done in perfect infinitive. Okay, that's all the time we have for today. For the subscribers, for the premium subscribers, please finish this exercise. Please finish this exercise. This is 10-1. This will be 10-1 past probability. And then I'm going to give you another assignment as well, two of them. Not only finish this exercise, but in the library for English 125, I would also like you to go back and do the vocabulary for Unit 3. Vocabulary for Unit 3, Exercise 1. Exercise 1. And again, this is just for the premium users, And I will put those in the class notes, and I'll share those one more time. And I'll be in email contact, of course. So, finish exercise 10-1, past probability, and then also do vocabulary 3-1, exercise 1. Okay, I'll share those class notes one last time. I'll be in email contact with the premium users, and I'll be checking your work. For the rest of you, thanks for joining. For all of you, yes, the classmates are very fast. You guys were very fast today, and I think you understood it. You wrote excellent example sentences. Everything was awesome this morning. Good questions, good examples. I had a lot of time. You guys are hilarious. You were very funny this morning. I guess your Monday's starting off very, very well. I'll be back in a couple days on Wednesday. And until then, happy studying. Happy day, afternoon, and evening. I enjoyed it very much. I enjoyed seeing new faces and familiar faces at the same time. And I'll see you soon. All right. Have fun. Have fun out there. See you soon. See you later. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye. I'll put on some music for you. How about that? As we go, I'll put on some music.